Hi everyone. Now, first up, I'm hoping this is going to work, but I am at one of our hatcheries up in Kishorn, and I'm hoping you can see the tanks of our fish down below. Hopefully that's working okay, Alba. And you can see our staff working there and our lovely little fish, our salmon, in the tanks below. It's a bit difficult to see, but I wanted to show you our fish. So, my name is Matilda. I work for Bakkafrost, Scotland. We are a salmon fish farming company based in Edinburgh and along the west coast of Scotland. I will share you my screen. So hopefully everyone can see that. Here we go. So yes, Bakkafrost Scotland is a leading producer of quality Scottish salmon. The majority, well, all of the salmon that you buy in the supermarket, in high street shops, will be farmed salmon. It is very unusual to be able to buy wild salmon now. A lot of fisheries are catch and release. So the fish that you buy is nice, healthy farmed salmon, and we are a leading industry in feeding the population now. Bakkafrost Scotland itself has 60 sites across the west coast of Scotland. And as I said, I'm based in our head office in Edinburgh. And we employ 400 people across Scotland, which many of you will know is a crucial employer, especially in isolated areas of Scotland where employment opportunities aren't very abundant. We grow 12 million fish a year and produce about 35,000 tonnes of salmon. So I know that's a difficult quantity to grasp, but we, as I said, it's a very important element of feeding the population today. Here I am out on Loch Fyne a couple of weeks ago with an absolute cracker of a salmon. This is the size of salmon that will then be sent to harvest. And so when you see a lovely big pink fillet in a supermarket chiller cabinet, it would have been about that size at sea before it went to harvest. I quickly realised that aquaculture was a very exciting industry to be a part of. I joined when I had no experience or knowledge of the industry. I'd actually been made redundant after graduating in a fairly basic standard administrative role. I did geography and public policy at uni in Glasgow. And I like telling my story because it's a reminder that people don't have to have set qualifications or a certain career path necessarily to then go on and excel in aquaculture. Sorry about the noises in the background. These are reminders and alarms to tell us to check things like water quality in the hatchery. So I hope it's not too disruptive. An important thing was that I wanted to live in the Isle of Harris up in the Western Isles. So as I've already mentioned, fish farming is a huge employer in rural areas. So when my job came up as an administrative assistant, I took the chance, even though I knew nothing about fish farming, because it was a job in the Western Isles where I could live and work where I loved. So even though I knew nothing about fish farming, I will say it a few times today, I think it's really important to say yes when exciting or daunting opportunities come up, because I have now been working in aquaculture and for the company for 10 years. And it's opened a lot of doors for me. And I think that's a really important message to put across to people who are interested, and who are looking for a career in something exciting. Scottish salmon is a huge economy and industry. We are the #1 food export in the UK. So even though a lot of you may not know anything about farm salmon, we are a huge contributor to the economy. It creates £500 million a year. Farm salmon has a lower carbon footprint compared to terrestrial meat like chicken, beef, pork. It's an excellent source of protein and omega-3, and it replicates the natural life cycle of the salmon. So we start from freshwater eggs and in small tanks here, like at the hatchery, and then after about a year, the salmon go out to sea pens and will be in the sea for 16 to 18 months. And then they get to the nice big harvest size that I was holding. So this is a good few years back now. I started as an administrative assistant. I was supporting biologists with collecting data, coordinating visits. I was then able to go out on site. I received a lot of training. I was quickly able to put my hand up to do biologist visits. So I would be monitoring the health of the fish, taking samples, doing things like gill swabs, where you have we take a swab like in a COVID test, and you gently rub it in the gills after they've been slightly anaesthetized, so they're not distressed and they're sleepy. You wipe it in their gills, and that will tell you if there's anything in the water that's naturally irritating the gills, like plankton, amoeba, micro jellyfish. If the gills are being irritated, they will find it more difficult to breathe and osmoregulate. So obviously we would then have to take action if the gill swabs told us that there was lots of environmental concerns. I then, thanks to saying yes, got to work with these cute little guys. They're very Disney-like. They are lumpfish. So I was promoted to be cleaner fish manager for the company. Cleaner fish are a natural, sustainable way of managing our lice levels, and they naturally graze off the lice that will sometimes attach themselves to the salmon and irritate the salmon's skin. And lumpfish on the right here and ballan wrasse on the left are naturally found in Scottish waters, and we put them in the pens with the salmon to manage our lice levels. It's a sustainable, non-chemical way, and it means that we can do less medicinal treatments. The lumpfish on the right are farmed. So again, that's supporting Scottish aquaculture industry, and the wrasse on the left are taken from a responsible wild fishery or is also farmed. So in my cleaner fish role, I am responsible for the sourcing and the deployment of fish. So here you can see there's fish in the tub that I have a probe into to check oxygen levels, and we are on a boat going out to sea pens in the Isle of Harris, and that was a particularly blustery West Coast day. I am responsible for checking the health and the efficacy of our cleaner fish. And a part that I really enjoy about my job is the fact that I have short-term and long-term tasks, and every day is different. So short-term, I'm looking at things that will affect a fish delivery, for example. What's the weather doing? The tide, the ferries, have they been cancelled today? And then long-term things like budgeting and forecasting and making sure that our plans fit in alongside our salmon plans to ensure that we're still growing strong, healthy salmon for market. I also have a second part of my job, which is managing our veterinary practice. So like you, if you feel poorly, you go to the doctors, the doctor needs to write a prescription for you to get medicine, I am responsible for making sure that all of our fish have prescriptions for any medicines that we give them. I'm also responsible for reporting to people like SEPA, Marine Scotland, our customers, all of the regulators that put checks on us to make sure that we're doing a good job. We do have to put up with a considerable amount of negative press. Fish farming has quite often an unfair amount of negativity towards it, and ironically, we are actually the heaviest regulated industry in the food producing community. So I know a lot of my job is spent on proving that we have all the right conditions, paperwork, licenses in place to do a good job. Aquaculture has an incredible amount of technology in it. This is the Ronya Star. This is a well boat that has 3 large wells in it to load fish in from the sea, and then they will sit in a well of fresh water, and the fresh water is what can clean the gills, from what I was saying earlier about being irritated with plankton and amoeba. The fresh water is obviously a clean, sustainable way of clearing the gills to stop the salmon from being irritated. So when we get to go out on site, it's very exciting. This was my view from the top of the Ronya Star, and you can see just about that there's a large pipe going into one of these pens. We've pulled the net away, put the pipe in, and then the fish are loaded up and onto the boat, and they'll sit there in the wells for 3 hours, and then they're pumped back out into the sea with cleaner gills. So the industry is very innovative, and I've been in it for 10 years, and a huge amount has changed in those 10 years. A huge amount has changed in the last 2 years. The information that we know, in my biology team alone, we have a huge amount of research and development going on, collecting data, using biomarkers to track trends of the fish. So we know before they're unwell that they will possibly be unwell in a couple of weeks, because we can collect data on different aspects of their blood chemistry to see how they're managing challenges in the environment. So, as you can hopefully tell already, aquaculture has a huge variety of jobs on offer and careers. I have never actually stepped into an already formed role in my company. I have always been good at saying yes to things. And I think, again, that's a really important message to put across to young people. Even if you don't know a lot about the role itself, as long as you have a supportive team around you and you're willing to do the training and do a bit of extra work into learning new skills, there's lots of opportunities. There's that classic statistic as well, isn't there, that women are less likely to go for jobs that they don't think they're qualified for than men. So I think it's always a really good point to push that we should say yes to new opportunities. Aquaculture also offers competitive salaries, especially in the rural areas of Scotland, where we have plenty of full-time permanent jobs on offer. We also have shift variations, so there's the options to be flexible. We have night shift cover. We have feed technicians who are using incredible AI technology to watch the feed on the cameras underneath the water to make sure that the fish are being fed to match their appetite. So if they're really hungry one day, we will feed them a lot. But the second the AI technology tells us that it can see pellets falling to the seabed, the feeding is stopped, because that then also helps us to manage the environment and make sure that we're not dumping any feed onto the seabed. We also offer things through work experience, modern apprenticeships, and very excitingly, from next year, we will be offering cadetships. So people will be able to earn accreditation for things, for boat tickets, like deckhands, skippers, and gaining qualifications for seafaring. I even considered doing an open university biology, marine biology course once I'd been in the company for a year or so, because I thought it would be a good addition to my skill set. For me, my manager at the time actually told me that she thought I would be able to learn more on the job. So, whilst there is the route of needing higher education qualifications for certain roles in the company, there is absolutely the opportunity to learn a huge amount of skills on site, things like boat handling, forklift driving, using technology to be able to manage the water quality in the tanks behind me. There's a huge amount of learning. So there really are many entry points for all ages in our sector. Technical roles may require things in our teams for biology, finance, IT, engineering, health and safety. So there's lots of routes for undergraduates to go through. But at the same time, as I've said, if you love being outdoors, proactive, and being an active, hardworking person, there are plenty of exciting jobs. I often pinch myself when I'm out on a boat getting paid for it when it's a beautiful view like this out on the West Coast. Alternatively, if you don't like fish, we also have jobs for you. So when I'm at career events for young people, it's encouraging that most of them do like fish and they have fish in their diet, but I understand it's not for everyone. So if you don't particularly like the smell or the taste of fish, don't worry. We've got jobs where you potentially could get away with never having seen a fish in your life. So we've got a bit of everything. Here I am with a Scottish colleague on the left and a Faroese colleague on the right. We have Bakkafrost comes from the Faroes, so we have a lot of knowledge sharing with them. It's another beautiful country that produces top quality salmon, and it's a really international industry. So Scotland, I would argue, has a particularly good reputation for its quality, but we have lots of colleagues working together from Norway, the Mediterranean, Chile, Canada, and of course the Faroes. So there are lots of exciting opportunities for work for networking. I'm also on the WISA board, Women in Scottish Aquaculture. It's recognised that women have to deal with more and different obstacles to men quite often in the workplace. So I help organise networking events, we do campaigning, we offer training, and our members tell us that it's a really valuable and valued way of reaching out and helping more women enter the workforce. And I would certainly love for more women to be joining us as well. And here's some more photos of me out and about out on the West Coast and in London. I've been to Ireland, and it's an excellent opportunity for travel. I even got to take my mum out on site on the left. So that was a really fun day, being able to share with her what I get up to every day. And as part of a Women in Scottish Aquaculture mentoring programme, I was able to mentor a colleague of mine, and she has gone on to get 2 promotions actually. So really proud of her, and I'm so pleased that WISA has been able to empower more women into feeling confident and progressing in their aquaculture careers. And then a final aspect to my job is that I like doing things like this, and particularly for STEM subjects, speaking to young people and getting them excited and enthused about doing STEM subjects as a career. It can be daunting, especially for someone like me, who, after doing geography and public policy at university, I wouldn't have said I had a particular STEM background. But if you are willing to put your hand up and say yes to things, if you are a hard worker, you're good at working in a team, you like to use your initiative, and you're a good communicator, I would say that saying yes can certainly lead to an exciting career. So there's so many opportunities, whether you like fish or not. And the Scottish economy and the UK economy have a huge thanks to pay for Scottish aquaculture and all forms of agriculture producing food for our population. So I would love to hear any questions if you've got any.
Well, Matilda, that was fantastic. I love your motto, say yes to things. It's really cool. We do have some questions for you. So we've got a question that's come in from Dunblane High School's environmental science class. They want to know, moving to such a rural area from Glasgow, did you get help to relocate from Bakkafrost?
That's a good question, because I have been all over the place. I was actually in Harris first, and then I moved to Edinburgh. So there is a good amount of travelling to do in my role. But if you're in Glasgow, I know people who do a bit of travelling. They go from Gourock and Paisley, for example, over to Loch Striven, which is just on the other side of Dunoon. And we have other sites in Loch Fyne. There will be packages to help encourage people move to the West Coast, because we appreciate it's a long way to move. So yes, there are initiatives like that to support colleagues and newcomers.
Fabulous. We've got another question here. Is there support for training? There seems to be so much to learn.
Yes, so we have a special training team, and they are responsible for making sure that everyone has the skills that they need. We have an online portal that shows me what training I need to do. It tells me if I'm late to do any of the training. It helps me sign up to classes. So recently I did a sea survival course. There's a big pool near Glasgow Airport, and you have to dunk yourself in it and pretend that you've been thrown off a boat for a while. And yes, you can put your hand up for training. If you're willing and enthusiastic to learn new skills, there's plenty of things that you can take on board. And then there's the set things that your manager would tell you. Right, you need to know how to check the safety of your life jacket, or you need to know what biosecurity measures we'll put in place so that you are not transferring any organic materials from one site to another that might harm our fish. So from basic things like that to help you do your day-to-day work, to driving a forklift or a boat.
Fantastic. We've got another one here. You do a lot of different things in your job at the moment. What else do you think you might move on to do in the future in your career?
Well, interestingly, I said yes to one more thing last week. So I don't have a huge amount to tell you about it just yet, because I've only just started, but it's around project management. So I think I'm good at getting people together, finding out if there are any problems, helping people find a way to solving those problems, and making sure everyone knows what they're meant to do and when. Only been doing it for a week, but I'm enjoying it so far. And because there are so many complex different things to consider, project management is another good string to my bow, I would say.
And finally, how much will new technology change fish farming in the future?
So much. We're thinking of new things all the time. The AI feed technology is something new that's come about in the last couple of years. And say 20 years ago, fish farmers would be going out onto the pens to hand feed. So they would be dunking a scoop into a 25 kilo bag of feed and chucking out feeds to watch the fish come up for the pellets in the water. Now, obviously, we can still see them coming up to the pellets, but there's a spinner in the middle of the pen now that flicks the feed around the circular pen. And that has made huge changes to the amount of physical work that our fish farmers now have to do. You don't have to lug a 25 kilo bag of feed around anymore. AI, I think, will play a huge part in being able to watch our fish underwater. We already have cameras, so we can see what they're doing 24 hours a day. But that's an exciting part of the industry, that we're coming up with new things all the time.